Following the bad odor, Malharath and Sibylla stumbled across a clearing in the woods. In the middle of it there was a lone, spooky, suspicious-looking tavern. Exchanging puzzling looks between each other for a few moments, they stepped out of the bushes onto a narrow dirt road. Malharath walked up sternly to the ramshackle door. The bad smell turned into a foul stench. He felt Sibylla's hand on his back. Peeking inside through the door slit, he saw a dimly lit, gloomy interior giving off an eerie vibe. He took a few moments to call upon the nocturnal powers of nature, enabling himself to see better in the dark. Pushing the door, he immediately noticed 6 hooded humanoid figures. 3 were at a nearby table in the dark corner to his left, and 3 were seated at a round table in a far right corner. Their heads slowly turned as he was assessing the situation. His primal senses started tingling. Nevertheless, he approached the bar. A female halfling innkeeper was nervously cleaning the cups. "Give me some of that brown ale you have," he ordered, pointing to a barrel behind her. "Here you go," squeaked the halfling, passing him a jug full of his favorite beverage. He noticed a faint tapping sound somewhere on his right side. A dog was laying down below the nearby table, wagging his tail at the floor. Inside his jaws, a bloody, torn-off human hand. Malharath felt chills traveling down his spine, sending his emotions into an instant turmoil and overdrive. Raising his voice to a loud shout, he asked, "What's up with this horrible smell? And why is that dog holding a ripped-off hand in his jaws?" Sibylla jerked her cloak and brandished her hand crossbow, pointing it right into innkeeper's face. The 6 hooded figures all got up simultaneously. The group on the left were ordinary humans dressed in fine clothes, apparently of noble stature. They pulled their cloaks, holding their hands on the hilts of stylish rapiers. However, the ones on the far right caused a myriad of weird noises as they turned towards the bar. Kobolds holding an assortment of weird implements. One of them chucked what looked like a primitive clay pot at Malharath. The object broke and bursted into a swarm of disgusting bugs, dozens of them latching onto and biting into the skin right away. With nothing but violent intentions in his mind, he started morphing into a large brown bear, growling angrily as he charged headfirst into them. Sibylla turned towards the humans and started rapid-firing the bolts into their heads without questions. The challengers quickly found themselves horribly outmatched by the 2 seasoned, battle-tested adventurers. As they attempted to flee the brawl, Malharath and Sibylla turned it into an absolute bloodbath. Everybody and their dog was dead. However, Malharath was still trashing the place violently. The bugs were crawling all over him, and he roared at Sibylla. She quickly approached and screamed in horror. "These are rot grubs! Calm down! Let me light up a torch!" As she was grabbing the torch, she noticed a few rot grubs wiggling under Malharath's fur and skin. "Heavens and hells! Quick, we don't have time! They are already inside of you! Show me where it hurts!" she yelled. She knew Malharath is in grave danger. Malharath stopped moving, but was still shaking and squirming in agony. His massive left paw was smacking at his thick right leg. Sibylla figured what's up and pulled out her dagger. This is going to hurt badly. Try not to move too much," and started cutting into Malharat's dense, beastly musculature. His roars turned into guttural screams as he was morphing back and forth between the humanoid and beastly form. As she was desperately butchering Malharath, she managed to pull out a few nasty critters. However, blood was rapidly pooling all over the floor. Malharath finally turned back into his humanoid form, revealing a body ravaged with wounds. "I can't hold on for much longer. They're eating me inside out. Give me that," he shouted as he violently ripped the dagger out of her hands and started stabbing himself. Sibylla, with no choice, started casting healing spells, attempting to keep him alive at all costs. Tears filled her eyes as she feared the worst. But then, Malharath stopped for a brief moment, grinding his teeth to a breaking point. With all his remaining strength, he stabbed himself so deeply that he dropped unconscious instantly. "No, no, please no!" Sibylla cried, desperately pulling the dagger out and draining the last bit of magical healing she had in herself. She noticed a dead rot grub at the tip of the blade. She looked into Malharath's face. He was breathing, and his eyes were barely open. He whispered, "It's okay. That was the last one." Alright, everybody. Min-Max Munchkin finally back with another video after 2.5 months of complete inactivity on the channel. Somehow, luckily or just by accident, the channel is not dead yet. I mean, you're still watching my videos. I check the stats every couple of days. And yeah, I still get new subscribers, so thank you to all the new subscribers that came to the channel in the past 2.5 months. The channel kind of grew to like almost 800 subs at this point. So yeah, thank you everybody, and if you enjoyed this little bit of intro story, like, share, comment and subscribe. Hit the bell button, all of that usual YouTube drill. Now, I'll give you additional reason to do that. This is the first story that I told, the intro story for one of these build videos that actually happened at D&D session relatively recently. I was playing a similar build. It was a Bear Totem Barbarian Moon Druid. It wasn't a Kalashtar, it wasn't an Eberron setting, but nevertheless it was a Barbarian Moon Druid. And yeah, basically we got surrounded by a couple of kobolds and nobles, which I showed you earlier in the video, and yeah, I almost died. So almost word for word what happened in that intro story is what actually happened at a session. So yeah, it was actually really nerve-wracking. I ended up the session with like 8 hit points left, with all of my wild shapes, all of my rages and everything just gone. So yeah, I mean, it was really goddamn, it was close. So yeah, anyway, the build itself is actually really simple. Let me go into it. So yeah, we have this and we have that. The race at hand, obviously, as you can see from the title, is a Kalashtar. Due to the fact this particular website still doesn't have it listed, I made a custom race, give it all the stats and stuff like that. So these are your starting abilities. You have 16 in strength, 14 in constitution, 16 in wisdom. Pretty much everything else is minimized other than your dexterity. Dexterity at 10 just to give you, or just to not decrease your armor class. So yeah, I mean, there's that. Now, key features and spells. Obviously you are a Barbarian Druid, so Rage, one of the key features. Combat, Wild Shape and Circle forms from the Moon Druid, which enable you to have more powerful beast forms. Mental Discipline, this is actually a Kalashtar race feature, racial feature, that gives you resistance to psychic damage, which is basically the only damage type that the Bear Totem Barbarian is not resistant to. Reckless attack, obviously very important. Depending on the beast you take, some beasts have pack tactics. Not actually a lot of them, like Darwolf, and that's about it, I think, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, reckless attack enables you to have advantage on all of your attack rolls. Unarmored defense is actually also very useful, because a lot of beasts have fairly low armor classes, and unarmored defense actually enables you to use an alternative calculation, yeah, basically use your constitution plus 10, so 10 plus 2 is 12, right off the bat, on your animal forms, like beast forms. Oftentimes you get better armor class using unarmored defense than the armor class you get just from the beast form itself. Also, sentinel feet really key on this build, just to enable you to have a little bit of extra damage output, additional reaction attack, additional opportunity attack options. So yeah, this is always good to have, especially on this build. Extra attack, yeah, I mean, Barbarian level 5 gets extra attack, it's a martial class. Extra attack actually enables you to really make some of those beast forms we are going to discuss later on in the video. They really stand out, like the tigers and giant elks and stuff like that. With the extra attack, those beasts become very dangerous. They deal a lot of damage. They have a lot of hit points. Yeah, that's about it for key features. Now, Kalashtar race. I mean defining characteristics. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Defining characteristics. Obviously, any kind of totem, like bear, totem, barbarian, moon druid, is an unrivaled damage sponge. In your case, you're just like any other out there. Now, you're not, well, this build is not really maximizing your hit points. You're never going to end up with like 20 constitution. But the combination of, oh yeah, I forgot to put out the tough feat here. There we go. The combination of tough feat, which basically gives you 2 additional hit points, and with rage, those 2 hit points turn basically into 4, a little bit even more than 4 hit points. You really are an unrivaled damage sponge. There's no question about it. It's actually very simple to play. This build is, even though I might end up talking for an hour about it, it's very simple to play. You pretty much just rage, and then in the first round, and then in the second round you turn into like a beast using your combat wild shape, and you just smack stuff. And if you get like in a pinch, you can use your other option from the combat wild shape to heal yourself. And all of that healing is basically doubled because you rage. So yeah, I mean, the synergies just go nuts. Obviously, due to the fact that you have so many hit points, you can soak up so much damage. You are superbly survivable. The action economy of this build is actually really neat. There are several options for you to use on your action, on your bonus action, even your reaction. So yeah, I mean, it's a really well-rounded build, because there's always something you can do on all of those stages in a round. Basically, the action economy is very favorable with this particular build. Also, you are going to have a very high, I mean, depending on the level of your character, obviously, you're going to have access to fairly high level utility spells from the Druid spell list. You're also basically, like, the few key racial and class features are going to tie up and synergize really well together and enable you to have a very fun and rich experience outside of combat. Moon Druid is basically on its own is very fun to play, and combining it with the Barbarian makes it an absolute machine, a powerhouse in combat, and you still retain all of those funsies from the Druid. Now, finally moving on to the Kalashtar race. Now, Kalashtar race is actually very actually interesting. You're kind of like a human. You have a human. You're like an union between these like Kashtai, Quorai, spirits, whatever. I'm not really familiar with Eberron lore that much, but that's basically what it is. And you basically have like you're like a human that's fused, that has like a symbiosis with these entities from like a dream realm. So yeah, all of your like theme and all of the fluff of the Kalashtar is tied to dreams, to like mental traits, let's call them like that. So yeah, I mean, without going too much into it, you get this severed from dreams. Well, obviously, first and foremost, I don't know why this is below this, but yeah, anyway, you get wisdom and charisma +1. In addition, you can choose one additional ability score and increase it by 1. Obviously, due to the fact that you are going to have to be a barbarian and druid, you are going to pick strength. I mean, that's the only thing that kind of makes sense. I mean, you can pick constitution and then have 16 in constitution. Nothing prohibits you from that, but I think having 16 in strength right off the bat is like, it's pretty much better, because you're going to have so many hit points that like 2 additional hit points, or actually just like 1 or 2 per level, is not going to matter too much to you. But you can do whatever you want. I think my recommendation, my suggestion, let's call it like that, is a strength +1. Now, severed from dreams, you basically don't dream, and this is more like a role-playing, like fluff feature. Mechanically, it's probably never going to come up, but yeah, if you get targeted with spells like that have like dream magical effects, you are immune to those, as it says here. So yeah, I mean, if it comes, it's screwed. If it doesn't, then pretty much it probably never will come. Yeah, it's just going to be the stuff that you don't dream, and that's it. Now, age, size, speed is pretty much human-like. Alignment, Kalashtar tend to drive towards lawful and good behavior. I would say this build in particular is more on the chaotic band, because you are a druid. I mean, you could be neutral good or something. I mean, you can be chaotic evil for all I care, but I think this build, like, in my mind, it makes the most sense that this build is like, this particular character type or just build is chaotic, just any kind of chaotic alignment. Yeah, dual mind is this basically allows you to gain advantage on wisdom saving throws if you use your reaction. Already you can see that you have stuff to do with your reaction. So yeah, like this racial feature, racial trait enables you to use your reaction and give yourself advantage on wisdom saving throws. It's always good to have these options, regardless of whether or not you're using them at any given moment or not. Now, mental discipline, this is one of those more important ones. This basically, to be honest, this is the racial trait, the most important racial trait, the only racial trait why I specifically picked Kalashtar in this case, because it gives you a resistance to psychic damage. Now, if you know anything about bear totem barbarians, they have, when they are raging, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but bear with me, no pun intended. When they're raging, they have resistance to all damage types except psychic damage. Well, if you take Kalashtar in this case, you have resistance to psychic damage as well. You basically, long story short, when you are raging, you are resisting all damage types. Absolutely, there's no damage type you are not resistant to. So yeah, that's it. Mind Link is actually very interesting as well if you're creative, if you like these, like, if you like to play mind games and if you like to have fun with telepathy. Yeah, I mean, you can do stuff. Psychic Glamour, I'd say the only sensible choice out of these 4 skills, you can only choose one, is Insight, due to the fact that Insight is the only wisdom based skill out of these 4. The other 3 are charisma based. And yeah, I mean, your Insight is already 16, so being proficient with it adds another 2, 3, 4 depending on your level. So yeah, proficiency in Insight is, I think that's the only one that makes sense. And you are a druid. Druids are typically insightful, so yeah, I mean, why not? Languages, you get these one of choice and common and quora, I don't know how it's pronounced, doesn't even matter. Now for backgrounds, I would personally choose Outlander. You can go with tribe member, both of them are similar, like the tribe member actually suggests that the characteristics, you just take the Outlander background characteristics. I think Outlander makes makes more sense for some reason, because you are a wanderer, how it's pronounced, I'm not sure. And the tribe member is kind of like more to the Barbarian. This is like the Utgard tribe is, if I'm not mistaken, is like a Barbarian tribe in Faerun, Forgotten Realms lore. So yeah, this is, yeah, basically Barbarian tribes of Faerun. This, due to the fact that you are going to be focusing kind of more on the Druid side than on a Barbarian side. I mean, that's at least how I see the character. I think Outlander makes more sense. Without going too much into it, pick whatever you want. I think these two make more sense, both mechanically due to the skills and tool proficiencies. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah, feats, more feats. Let's go. Sentinel is the most important one in my mind. It gives you several options. First and foremost, the most important option in my mind is actually the bullet point number 3, which enables you to have additional reaction attack, melee weapon reaction attack against a creature that attacks somebody or something else other than you. So if the creature is attacking you, you are pretty much fulfilling the role you have in a party. You are there to soak up damage, and if the creature is attacking you, then you are just doing your job. But if the creature is not attacking you, you kind of need to convince the creature to attack you, right? You don't want that creature to chuck, I don't know, like fireballs onto your wizard in the background. You want that creature to chuck fireballs and whatever, like burning hands onto you, right? So this feat kind of indirectly works in that purpose, in that like way. So when that creature within 5 feet of you, well, hopefully you are within 5 feet of the creature, makes an attack roll against the target other than you, that target doesn't have this feat. Well, not many targets have this feat anyway, so yeah, this kind of mostly redundant. You can basically do one additional attack during that round. This is probably the most important bullet point of this feat, but of course the first two ones are also kind of important. Also, when you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, you get to like keep it in place. That creature cannot move at all for the rest of the turn. Now the creatures actually provoke opportunity attacks even if they take disengage action. So these two like work in unison. Now this is something that I've actually that my table, me personally, and other players that I regularly play with, actually we were playing it wrong up until like even last week. This thing right here, the creature speed becomes 0. It doesn't work with the third bullet point. The third bullet point is actually not an opportunity attack. It's just a special kind of reaction melee weapon attack, which doesn't have to do anything with opportunity attack. It's just a one additional type of attack. So yeah, if you use the third bullet point to hit the creature using your reaction, you are not making an opportunity attack, therefore that creature can still move out of your reach. In other words, that creature's speed doesn't become 0. I've actually went onto the Sage Advice, check this out. Jeremy Crawford basically confirmed what I've what I just told you. So yeah, you can just trust me on that. I don't wanna Google that right now. I don't really remember what actually I typed into Google. So yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. Maybe it's even here, but whatever. That doesn't matter. Just trust me on this one. Now, the other feat to consider, the other feat I would strongly recommend is tough, because tough, when you think about it, it gives you like, it doubles your, well, like every level you get 2 additional hit points. This is basically what this feat gives you. Your hit point maximum basically increases by twice your level when you take the feat, and then every additional level you get 2 additional hit points. So basically 2 hit points per level. However, due to the fact that you are when you're raging, you are resistant to all damage types out there, that if like all under the moon and sun, whatever. These 2 hit points actually turn into 4, slightly even more than 4 hit points. Now we are going to I'm going to tell you why just slightly bit more than 4, but just bear with me for now, no pun intended again. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to take this feat in any time, this is the time to take it. This is the build, this is the character to take it. It's really insane. 4 hit points every level up. It stacks up massively. So yeah, take it. Now, Totem of the Barbarian, moving on to the Barbarian. Now, Rage, obviously, if you don't know what Rage is, I don't know what you're doing here. I'm not actually judging you. If you're new to the game, you're perfectly fine if you've never heard about Rage and don't really know what it does. So basically, if I'm not going to read it and go too much into it, you can pause the video and read it yourself, or you can go to this wiki site and read it there. Basically, you have advantage, you deal additional damage based on the rage damage table. You can only use it 2, 3 or 4 times per day, per long rest, depending on your barbarian level. Obviously, we are going to cap our barbarian at level 5, as it says here, so you're only going to have access to 3 during the day, but those 3 are going to be more than enough in most cases, because they are going to synergize so well with your beast shapes and healing and all that kind of jazz. You're pretty much never going to run out of them, like in 99% of the scenarios. So yeah, there's about that. You also have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing and slashing right off the bat. At first level you get resistance to those like mundane types of damage outputs. Now this is like one additional thing to consider if you've never thought about it. You are resistant to bludgeoning, piercing and slashing, period. Doesn't matter whether it's a mundane weapon or a magical weapon. So like non-magical, magical. You're just resistant to these damage types from all types of sources. Falling damage, magical weapons, strong winds, whatever. So yeah, now one important thing, you cannot cast spells if you are raging. If you already have a concentration spell as well, you cannot concentrate on it, you just stop concentrating. It lasts for 1 minute, it ends early if you're not blah 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 blah. This other stuff kind of doesn't matter. So yeah, let's move on. Basically, there's unarmored defense, another very important feature, which enables you to have basically use 10 plus dex plus constitution modifier as your armor class. Now you can use shield, and you will use a shield with your with this particular build, because when you go back to these attributes, to these abilities, just without a shield you would only have like 12 armor class, which is kind of low. So shield instantly bumps you into 14, which is kind of neat for a barbarian. So 14, 15, 16 AC for a barbarian is perfectly fine. Reckless attack, also very important. In most beast forms, you are going to really profit from this, because most beast forms typically don't have very high to hit, what's it called, the attack roll bonus. The attack roll bonus, the bonus you add when you are rolling to hit a creature, it's actually not really very high in like a majority of beast forms. So reckless attack helps you to pull through, to land more critical hits, to hit more often. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. One important thing about it, if you don't know, when you use it, all of your attacks are done with advantage, but also all attack rolls against you are also made with advantage, so you have to be careful with this. However, again, you have so many hit points combined with your beast forms and your rage and whatever, it just pretty much doesn't matter. You're going to be using this the majority of the time. Danger Sense, very useful, because most of the saving throws in Dungeons and Dragons, at least 5th edition, as far as I know and as far as my experience goes, are dexterity saving throws. So having advantage on dex saving throws is really useful in like a lot of cases. It's just like a generically very good feature. Now finally, moving on to the primal path, the Totem Warrior, we get the Bear Spirit, the Bear Totem Spirit. This is the one we take. So basically, as I already told you before, while raging you have resistance to all damage types except psychic damage. Again, moving back to the Kalashtar race. From the Kalashtar race you have resistance to psychic damage as well. So yeah, you are basically resistant to everything. That's that. Spirit Seeker, you also get the ability to cast Beast Sense and Speak with Animal spells as rituals. It's always good to have additional spells to cast, even just as rituals. And these two spells like mesh perfectly with Druid, because Druids have both of these spells on their spell list. And yeah, I mean, if there's a Barbarian as close to a Druid out there, this is the one. So yeah, that's about it. Not too much to tell about him. It's just like you sense beasts and speak with animals, almost self-explanatory. If you don't know, I'm still going to open them. You can pause the video and read them yourself. I'm not going to go into too much detail. So yeah, hopefully you are done and now you can continue with your video. Yeah, Totem Spirit Barbarian. Now at 4th level, every class out there gets a 4th level ability score increase. Finally, at 5th level you get your extra attack and fast movement. Extra attack helps you in all of your beast forms that don't have multi-attack. And as far as I know, only bears have multi-attack, and like a giant scorpion, which is kind of like a trash tier. So yeah, if you're not turning into a bear, and you're for some reason turning into something else, extra attack is going to enable you to have basically 2 attacks in whatever beast form you choose, period. Fast movement, this is often overlooked feature, but due to the fact that this build is very melee oriented, those 10 additional feet of movement will often really help. So yeah, I mean, this is nothing to be this is not to be ignored, trust me. Those 10 feet can often mean a difference. I've been in situations, I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, Circle of the Moon Druid, finally moving on to the Druid side of the story. The first level gives you Druidic and spellcasting. You know one additional language, it's cool. You can kind of spot these. These are like, this is one of those fluff features in a campaign that's happening like 100% of the time in the forest. This actually might come up mechanically from time to time, but in most campaigns this is kind of useless. Still, it's always good to know additional language, so yeah, who cares. Now, spellcasting, nothing to talk about. Druids prepare spells, they are full casters. You have your spell list, you prepare them based on your wisdom modifier plus your druid level, minimum of 1. So as you level up your druid, you'll be able to prepare more spells, higher level spells, that's about it. You can cast spells as rituals if they have a ritual tag attached. And you can use a druidic focus as a spellcasting focus, blah blah. Now, druids use staffs as magic, as druidic focuses. I don't know how it's called. So yeah, these staffs are basically quarterstaffs. You can use them as quarterstaffs. So yeah, you can use your quarterstaff as your melee weapon when you are outside of your beast form, and as a druid focus when you are obviously outside of your beast form again. So your quarterstaff can basically serve two purposes. Now, wild shape, I mean your staff, your druid focus staff can serve as a quarterstaff. Anyway, I'm talking too much about it. Moving on. Wild shape improvements. Well, first and foremost, combat wild shape and circle forms. Let's not skip that. That's the most important one. Circle of the Moon, combat wild shape and circle forms. Pretty much the two primary reasons to take Moon Druid over any other Moon Druid out there. First and foremost, you can pick. You can transform into a beast as a bonus action compared. Rather as an action like you can do regularly. Additionally, you can also heal yourself based on the spell slot level that you use. If you use a first level spell slot, it's a 1d8. If you use a second level, it's a 2d8, and so on. This is also not to be ignored, because these hit points that you regain are also basically doubled, because when you are raging, those 2 hit points or 4 hit points that you healed yourself basically double. They turn into 4 to 8 hit points, because the enemy has to deal double the damage to damage you to deal the same amount of damage that you healed. So yeah, I mean, this is also not to be ignored. This is all synergizing with each other very, very well. There's so many parallels where these, like, oftentimes ignored features work very, very well together. With regards to Barbarian and Circle of the Moon Druid. Circle forms, wild shape, you can use it, you can use beasts as high as challenge rating 1. Even as low as a 2nd level, and starting at a 6th level, you can transform into a beast with its challenge rating equal to your druid level divided by 3, rounded down. If we go back to the wild shape, I'm not going to read this wall of text here, but basically you are kind of limited to very, very weak beasts. At the 2nd level, you can only use a quarter of the challenge rating beast as your beast form. So yeah, these are all very weak beasts. You need to be like an 8th level druid to transform into a challenge rating 1 beast. Well, if you take a moon druid, you can now do it at the 2nd level and you don't care. The only limitations that remain are these ones. At level 2 you are limited to just land-based beasts. And at level 4 you can use swimming speed beasts. Still you cannot use flying ones, and you need to wait until 8th level to transform into giant eagles and other types of feathery beasties. Now, couple important things about the wild shape feature, like the base core feature of the druid. First and foremost, you use physical statistics, in other words, strength, dexterity, and constitution, plus obviously hit points of the beast, but you retain your alignment, personality, and mental abilities, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, from your, let's call it like human side. You're a Kalashtar, but humanoid side. You're a humanoid, so that's what I wanted to tell. Yeah. So you're kind of like half and half. When you're turned into a beast, you have all the physical attributes, but all of your mental, psychological attributes, personality-wise, you are still you. You are not a beast. You also retain all of your skills, saving throws. You also gain proficiencies of the beast, even though... So the proficiencies stack on top of each other's. So if the beast gives you some skill or saving proficiency that you don't have, you get it. So yeah, that's about it. You also, when you transform, as I told you, you get beast hit points and hit dice. When you revert to normal form, all the excess damage gets carried over into your humanoid form. So for example, if you are at 5 hit points as a brown bear and you get 10 damage, well, you get 20 damage because you are raging, so the enemy has to do 20 damage. See, even like dealing just 10 damage requires the enemy to deal you like 20 damage, actually. Even like 21 damage is still 10 damage onto you. Yeah, anyway, moving on. So yeah, that's about it. All of that excess damage gets carried over. You cannot cast spells, you can't concentrate. Well, you can concentrate if you're just a druid, but unfortunately we are going to be raging, and as we already covered earlier on, when you're raging you pretty much cannot cast and concentrate on any spells whatsoever. This is probably the most important bullet point. You retain the benefit of any features from your class, race, or other source, and can use them if the new form is physically capable of doing so. So your rage, your unarmored defense, your reckless attack, your danger sense, your totem spirit bear, all of these barbarian features all work with your beast wild shape form. So yeah, I mean, all of these features basically synergize with all of those beast forms very, very well, very in a powerful way. So yeah, that's it. Also your equipment. I mean, I wouldn't ever drop my equipment on the floor, ground, whatever. In any case, the equipment you will pretty much always choose that it merges into you, because it doesn't actually say there are any limitations with regards to equipment merging into your new form here. So this bullet point is kind of redundant in my opinion. I don't know, sometimes things might come up, so yeah, you have to consult this particular bullet point. I'm not going to waste too much time on it. It's situationally based anyway. So yeah, that's about it. That's for the wild shape. Now moving back to the Circle of the Moon. Other features, we already covered the first two ones. Primal Strike at level 6. Your attacks become magical attacks for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. Now, yeah, as you level up, as your character levels up, you are going to be encountering more and more creatures that have resistance to non-magical physical damage sources, so bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from your natural weapons, from your claws, bites, and whatever. So yeah, level 6 Moon Druid, basically all of those weapons become magical, all of those attacks are magical, so you just ignore. This is really helpful because it's going to enable you to be relevant in terms of damage output, even like in tier 3 play. Sorry, I'm having like my stomach is kind of like something sort of like an acid reflux. Elemental Wild Shape, fairly high level 10 feature, but very powerful. You can turn into elementals, the 4 basic elemental types, which we are going to talk about real soon. So yeah, I mean, very useful. Unfortunately, you have to use both Wild Shape uses, but yeah, I think I didn't mention that, but if you don't know now, you will know. The uses you have 2 uses of Wild Shape per short rest or long rest, obviously. So you can transform into a beast twice between short rests or long rests. And if you use elemental form at level like 10 of your druid, basically level 15 of your character, or maybe 13, I don't know. You can unfortunately do it only once per short or long rest. But on the other hand, that elemental form is very powerful. Those forms are actually challenge rating 5. So at 10th level, which basically enables you to transform 2 times into a challenge rating 3 beast. And you're going to see real soon why that is not really very much better than challenge rating 2. This is a really good thing to have, trust me. Yeah, that's about it. Finally, your capstone feature, 14th level feature, is Alter Self spell, which you can cast at will. Kind of weak feature, but on the other hand, this spell, the ability to cast this spell at will, is probably going to help you in situations where, I don't know, you have to go underwater, or I don't know, like this spell has its uses. Unfortunately, it's a second level spell, so yeah, I mean, you get it so far behind, like, in your character progression, that it's kind of not going to matter to you too much. So yeah, that's about it. Now, one important thing that I wanted to mention as well, and it's a really important thing, is that this character build is, if you do the math, level 5 plus level 14 is actually a level 19, and if you've played D&D for any amount of time, you know that characters cap out at level 20. Now, where's that one level gone? I purposefully let it out for one particular reason, and that reason is that this build, first and foremost, is tier 2 to tier 3 build. So basically it works well in those levels of play. I'm not telling you that it won't work at level 20, but there's one Druid feature, particularly Capstone level 20 Druid feature, that kind of defeats the purpose of multiclassing if, in case, you know that the campaign that you're playing in is going to hit, you're going to hit level 20 first, like, even to begin with, and especially if you know that you're going to play that campaign for like a couple of sessions at least, being a level 20 character. The Archdruid feature is just insane. Instead of having just 2 uses per short rest, you have unlimited uses of Wild Shape at level 20, being a single-classed Archdruid. And additionally, you can also ignore verbal and somatic components of Druid spells. So, yeah, I mean, you can cast spells in your Wild Shape form. You can be a tiger who just, like, drops some kind of spell. I don't know, I don't even know which one. Doesn't even matter. There are a fair amount of spells on the Druid list that don't have the material components. That don't have a material components that have a cost or a consumed trait. So yeah, you can cast basically most of the spells from the Druid list, and you can do it pretty much always in the beast form, because you have unlimited number of those Wild Shape uses. Yeah, without spending too much time on this feature, that's what you get. Like, if you're a level 20 character, do not multi-class, just keep it Druid, because yeah, it's just better. This feature is insane. This is one of the most ridiculous level 20 features that any level 20 character can have. So yeah, don't cut yourself short of using this feature if you know that you're going to be a level 20 character. With that said, let's finally move on to the beast forms. Let's see what kind of beasts we can be. First and foremost, I'm just going to plain skip all of these lower than challenge rating 1 beasts. There are too many of them to go through, and most of them, well, all of them, are kind of weak, so there's no point of going over them. I'm only going to consider the combat forms, the combat wild shapes, the challenge rating 1 and above, and I'm only going to cover the beasts that are in core official materials. So for example, Cragcat is official material. It's found in Storm King's Thunder, but it's kind of not a core material. Storm King's Thunder, a very fun adventure that I used to play until recently, is only that. It's an adventure. It's this particular cat is specific to that kind of adventure, and while you can make a point that if it's in the official material, therefore it can be used, oftentimes these special, like, custom creatures, campaign specific creatures, the creatures that can only be found in those adventure of materials, are kind of broken, or in both ways. Sometimes they're too powerful, sometimes they're like just trash. so I'm just going to skip them. I'm only going to use the Monsters Manual, Volo's Guide, and yeah, that's about it. So first and foremost, Brown Bear. When you consider that at level 5 of your character, you don't have, for example, you don't have extra attack because you are a 3rd level Barbarian and a 2nd level Druid. Multi-attack really comes through to pull you in terms of damage output. On average, you're going to be dealing somewhere around 20 damage per round, and with a +5 to hit, which is very decent for a level 5 character, and even like level 6 and 7. This beast form really comes through. Also, your natural armor, if you consider it, you have an unarmored defense feature from your Barbarian, and it pretty much works, as we already discussed. So you can use your unarmored defense calculation and add your constitution modifier +10, and instead of having an 11, you have 13 AC, which is, I mean, objectively better, right? So it's just better, and more higher armor class means that you're going to be hit less often. Decent hit points. Doesn't have dark vision, unfortunately, but does have keen smell that kind of helps you offset the disadvantage in darkness in most cases, because you are going to be relying on smell to figure out what's happening around you. Now, that's about it. Now, other beasts that I would consider, first and foremost, Tiger. Tiger is one of those beasts that works really well when you get the extra attack. So when you get extra attack, for example, at level 7, if you go like 5 levels in Barbarian and 2 levels in Druid, you can use extra attack as your you can basically attack twice in your tiger form, and on top of that, if the tiger moves at least 20 feet, blah 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 blah, and the creature fails the strength saving throw, you can use the additional bonus action attack on top of your 2 attacks that you have in your regular action. So 2 attacks from your extra attack, and then your bonus action attack if you manage to prone the creature. And then don't forget, you also have the Sentinel feat, which enables you to have a special kind of reaction attack if that creature attacks somebody else. So at level 7 you can potentially have 4 attack rolls in the single round by being a tiger, which is insane when you consider that you deal like 8, 16, what's like 8 times 4 is 32, right? 32 damage at level 7 is with like a crap ton of hit points stacked on top of it, which enables you to pretty much never die, is nothing to be ashamed of. Now, Giant Hyena as well, another beast to consider, pretty much the beast to take if you know that you need every ounce of hit point, every single hit point under the moon. This is the beast shape to take. 45 hit points, the most hit points of any official core material beast that you can find. Doesn't have multi-attack, obviously, but does have an armor class of 14 when you consider armor, unarmored defense. So 14 armor class, 45 hit points. Rampage also enables you to potentially have a bonus action attack every now and then. And with an extra attack also biting your opponent 2 or 3 times per round, extra attack plus Sentinel synergy. Pretty much also puts you in the range of 20-30 damage per round, which at level 7 is a very decent DPS. Don't even like think that that's too low. Finally, Direwolf, the beast form that I actually used, is one of those forms that kind of helps you in terms of the chance to hit, and it indirectly also helps you preserve hit points, because instead of using reckless attack, which enables whoever attacks you back to have advantage on their attacks, you can use pack tactics if you are next to your ally, if your ally is next to the creature that you attack. And those pack tactics are also give you advantage just like reckless attack, but they don't have a drawback of your attacker having advantage back on you. So I would also consider Direwolf, especially if you have access to extra attack. Now moving on to challenge rating 2 beasts. There's a very thin line between what I would consider the best here. First and foremost, we have Cave Bear, which is just like a better version of a brown bear, a much better version of a brown bear. But then you have a giant constrictor snake, and I would personally, especially if you have extra attack, obviously, I would consider giant constrictor snake almost every time above cave bear. First and foremost, you have 60 hit points compared to 42 in a bear form. Your armor class is 13, 2 plus 1 plus 10 is 13. In a bear form is also 13, but the hit points and the ability to have coil basically around the creature that you're attacking. You're basically like you're like some kind of titano boa. You're a huge, I don't know, anaconda or whatever, like some of that sort. A huge python. Basically, yeah, some of that very nasty creature, which constricts the opponent, and the escape DC against the grapple condition is very high. So when you hit the creature, you deal a decent amount of damage, and the target is grappled. The caveat, the drawback is that you cannot constrict anybody else until this grapple ends. But let's think about it. When you coil yourself around somebody, and the escape DC being fairly high, you can just keep crushing that target like forever. And using your reckless attack and using your obviously a huge amount of hit points, 121, even like 130 hit points, effectively, this is probably the beast form to take in case. Not probably, this is the beast form to take if you have extra attack. If you don't have extra attack, yeah, Cave Bear makes sense as well. Again, also another thing that Cave Bear has over the Brown Bear and Constrictor Snake is Dark Vision up to a 60 feet range. Something to consider if you are fighting in darkness. And multi-attack also enables you to have decent amount of damage output, and 42 hit points are not bad. Now, some other beast forms to consider as well, outside of Giant Constrictor and Saber-Tooth Tiger, Cave Bear is Saber-Tooth Tiger first and foremost. Giant Elk is ridiculous, and Giant Boar is also very interesting. First and foremost, Saber-Tooth Tiger, just like a tiger, has pounce. Combined with extra attack, you can have potentially 4 attacks in a single round. 2 attacks from your extra attack, bonus action attack if you manage to prone a creature. And sorry, my nose is a bit congested. And reaction attack if your Sentinel Feet attack goes off. So yeah, basically a bigger, stronger version of, well, not bigger, but stronger, more powerful version of ordinary tiger. And a decent amount of hit points. 52 hit points is not too shabby. Now, Giant Elk is ridiculous with extra attack. Look at this average damage output. 48 plus 4 damage with extra attack is basically 8d8 plus 8. And also, if you manage to ram the creature the creature takes extra 2d6, and you can knock it prone, and if the creature is prone you have advantage. This is insane. Giant Elk is really insane if you have extra attack, and yeah, consider it as well. Now finally, Giant Boar. Sorry. One of the features of the Giant Boar is this Relentless one. Now, Relentless feature is actually really interesting, because if the boar takes 10 damage or less, that would reduce it to 0 hit points. It is reduced to 10 hit points instead. Now, if you consider that just being a moon druid, it's very easy to take 10 hit points. But in order to take 10 hit points when you are raging, your enemy has to deal you at least 20 damage, your opponent has to deal you at least like 20, 20 damage or 21 to deal 10 damage to you, because you have the damage, you're resistant. So yeah, that's actually not that easy. Even like a lot of fairly high challenge rating monsters don't really deal 20 damage in a single blow. Of course, as you level up, more and more monsters will be dealing that. But at the level of gaining challenge rating to beast forms, not a lot of monsters are going to be dealing 20 or more damage per round in a single hit. So yeah, this is one to consider as well. Now moving on to challenge rating 3. Challenge rating 3, which I consider, I don't know, like, I would dare and say that you can almost ignore this challenge rating tier almost completely, because these things are just, they suck. First and foremost, Giant Lightning Eel is, well, it's still trash, but on top of it, it's like a Tales from the Yawning Portal, so we can't even consider it. So you can only choose 3. Ankylosaurus has 68 hit points. You need 3 additional druid levels to be able to reach this, and compared to Constrictor Snake, you only get 8 more hit points. Come on, man. That's bullshit. Now, armor class, I'll give you that, is 15. That's decent. However, it doesn't actually deal that much damage. When you go back and see the giant elk, which, yeah, does have a bit less hit points, it has a considerably less hit points, but I mean, it deals 22 damage, and then Ankylosaurus deals 18 on average. I don't know, this is just sad. And then Giant Scorpion, which at first you would see, whoa, 3 attacks, whoa, but then +4 to hit. I mean, yeah, you do have reckless attack, you do attack with an advantage, but a challenge rating 3 creature, you basically need to be a minimum of level 12 to get this. It's like the best case scenario, and at level 12 you have +4 to hit. It's just trash. I mean, you can still use this, you can still make 3 attacks, and those you can poison, you can deal poison damage. I don't know, the DC is very low for the saving throw, and many monsters are even resistant to poison damage. I don't know, these beasts are just a huge disappointment. And then on top of that you have a killer whale, which can't even move on the ground. It's a fish, it's a giant freaking fish. Yeah, screw this challenge rating, it's completely bollocks. Finally, challenge rating 4, finally something useful. We have elephant. Giant subterranean lizard is again Tales from the Yawning Portal, so we cannot really consider it. We only have 2 options to choose from. Both the elephant and the stego have the same amount of hit points. They have the same armor class. Well, stegos have 1 additional, 13 compared to 12. You cannot really use unarmored because 10 minus 1 is 9 and plus 3 is 12. So it's pretty much the same. So yeah, stego has 1 additional armor class, but then, yeah, tail compared to stomp does deal a little bit more damage, but elephant does have a trampling charge, and it's a fairly low saving throw, it's a fairly low DC on that level, but there is a potential, and if there is even like a slight chance of you making 1 additional damage that deals 22 damage on average, that's not bad. That is not bad. And yeah, I mean, that's why I would consider elephant over stegosaurus. Now, moving on to elementals, I'm not going to spend too much time on this as I did spend on these beast forms. First and foremost, because probably not a lot of you will even reach level 15, which is when this build gets to a level 10 of Druid. Even if you do, these elementals are all good, each and every one of them has its use. I would personally say air elemental is best choice overall. Just it has like the least amount of drawbacks and the most amount of, let's say, benefits. Now, it does first and foremost has the least amount of hit points. That's, I guess, one of the drawbacks. However, it has a flying speed of 90 feet, and if you consider your fast movement from the 5th level of Druid, which gives you additional 10 feet of movement, you have 100 feet of flying hover movement. Your armor class is not 15, it's plus 5 plus 2, it's plus 5 plus 2 plus 10, it's like 17. So 17 armor class, 90 hit points, which is decent. 100% of moving speed, no apparent disadvantages in terms of these features here. Multi-attack, well, you have extra attack, so it doesn't matter. You can cause mini tornadoes with this action, with this special form of attack, which is very, very cool. And yeah, you even have a dark vision, and your condition immunities, you're just immune to like a bunch of these conditions. So, and you even have immunity to poison damage, which is like a fairly you get to. It's a fairly like widespread type of damage that you get attacked by. So having this is also really cool. You're basically air. You're an air elemental. You're composed of air. So yeah, I mean it makes sense that you're immune to all of this stuff. Now, earth elemental is much slower burrowing type of elemental. It does have 17 armor class. Unfortunately, it has a damage vulnerability. It has a decent amount of resistances. Nothing like not even close to air elemental, but it does have some condition immunities. Again, less than air elemental. Dark vision, tremor sense is kind of neat, yeah, I mean you can burrow through non-magical unworked earth and stone. So yeah, I mean this also has its uses if you have to chase a monster that's burrowing deep below the ground, if I don't know, or if you need to take down the wall or something, I don't know. Decent amount of damage, nothing else. Now, fire elemental, decent amount of resistances and immunities compared to air elemental. 16 armor class, plus 3 plus 3 plus 10 is 16. Decent amount of hit points. I forgot to mention earth elemental has the most amount of hit points. Unfortunately, it has this water susceptibility. It takes 1 cold damage, and you are not vulnerable to cold damage, but I don't know, man. I don't like any kind of these things that deal you damage. Screw that. You might be thinking 1 cold damage, but then something happens when that 1 cold damage turns into a 2 cold damage, and then stuff can happen. I don't like this. I don't like these things that can cause potential catastrophe. I've been in too many situations. Now, you can squeeze, yeah, I mean, fire elemental has its uses. It's very close to air elemental. Finally, water elemental. I said I'm not gonna spend too much time, and here I am. I'm talking about it for almost 10 minutes. Basically similar to all of these other ones. 16 armor class, 114 hit points. You can swim very fast. Makes sense. Unfortunately, you also have this susceptibility to cold damage. You can freeze, and your speed is reduced by 20 feet, and there are a lot of cold damage sources out there in the wilderness. So I don't really like it. Like, if it did have freeze, it would be awesome. I would probably pick it over air elemental. But just having this freeze, which reduces your speed by 20 feet, and on ground you only have 30 feet, so now you only have like 10, 20 with your fast movement. If I don't know, man. Screw this. Air elemental all the way. That's it. Now spells. I did make a list, but due to the fact this video is already 1 hour and 10 minutes, I'm not going to actually spend too much time on this. I'm going to slowly scroll through the list, and you can kind of see them yourself. Just quickly, definitely take guidance. These other ones are at your choice. I'd say mold earth or shape water, or maybe even both. They are very, very useful. Now level 1 spells, I think you should take healing word, just in case you're especially in case if you're the only character that has access to healing spells in all of your party. And even if you have a cleric, bard, or paladin, still have a healing word just in case you need, just in case your healer, your primary party healer, drops down, and with this spell you can bring him or her up. Now these other spells, Long Strider gives you 10 additional movement speed. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. Do or do not, at your choice. These are just my suggestions. Now, of these level 2 spells, I would definitely consider these two very, very important. Pass Without Trace, plus 10 to all of your stealth checks. Really, really good. Dark Vision gives you Dark Vision for 8 hours, and it's not a concentration spell, so yeah, this is very, very good. Kalastars don't have Dark Vision on their own, so having Dark Vision is, I mean, if it's dark and you cannot see in the dark, you need this spell, so there's nothing else to talk about. Animal Messenger, send messages, send messenger pigeons or whatever. Enhance ability thematically makes sense, but realistically, mechanically, it's a concentration spell. You're probably never going to use it, or very, very rarely. I would personally take it just because it makes sense thematically. That's about it. You have those like beast-like abilities, something, whatever. Dispel magic. I mean, especially if there's no bard or wizard or sorcerer that has access to this spell, you kind of have to take it. Level 4 polymorph, and well, let's kind of make it this. It's kind of it's not red, it's not that critical to have it, but yeah, take it. Polymorph and stone shape. Polymorph is kind of, you can turn into a beast anyway, but polymorph enables you to turn into a T-Rex. Unfortunately, it's a concentration spell, so you cannot rage while you are polymorphed. Yeah, I mean, I would still take it just for the sake of turning into a T-Rex at least once during a campaign, or turning your teammate into a T-Rex. This can also serve as a pseudo healing spell. For example, if one of your party members is very low on hit points and a healing word is not going to cut it, you just polymorph him or her into a T-Rex or a giant ape or something, I don't know, and give him like 100 plus hit points, or her. Yeah, I mean, you can, this spell is really good in some situations. Stone shape, you can come up to a wall, and if that wall doesn't exceed a medium sized, like 5 feet in any dimension, you can make a hole in that wall. That's just one thing you can do with this. Sky's the limit. Creativity with this spell, yeah, I mean, you can do stuff. Level 5, basically divination spells like scrying, commune with nature, And Greater Resto is very good, for example, if you are suffering exhaustions, if you get petrified, or stuff like that. So I think you should have it. All three of these spells are really good. Now, Druid Grove is one of those fairly unknown, I guess, spells, just for the reason of being a level 6 spell and not a lot of campaigns and even reach the levels where you can choose 6 level spells. I'm not going to go too much into it, it's a wall of text and this video is already too long. You can pause the video and read it yourself. You basically protect the area, and Dispel Magic only works partially against this spell, and these effects are kind of cool and mechanically they work, so I would take it just for that sake. And it's not a concentration, lasts for 24 hours. There's no reason not to prepare this spell. Finally, Mirage Arcane. If you don't know, this illusion spell it's ridiculous. It does have a casting time of 10 minutes, but it's not a concentration spell, and it lasts 10 days. 10 freaking days, man. And you can make illusions that are up to 1 square mile. This spell is just ludicrous. That, yeah, whatever. You can do stuff with this, especially if your DM allows you to, well, do stuff with it. So finally, moving on to the progression. I hope this video is not going to last 1.5 hours. This video is going to last 1.5 hours. God damn, I cannot stop talking. Anyway, progression. This build comes online at level 5. Unfortunately, before level 5, you are not going to have your critical core features. Yeah, before level 5. So 3 levels of Barbarian and 2 levels of Druid give you the most, the essentials. These give you the essentials. Now after that, I don't know what's this. You have 2 options. Either switch back into a Barbarian and take Sentinel Feet right at level 6, and then extra attack and fast movement at level 7. While remaining into having those powerful combat wild shapes and circle forms, or go straight into the Druid 10 to get these wild shape improvements, higher level spell slots, more spell slots, and more spell slots which will enable you to heal yourself more and more often and more in volume. So more healing, more hit points, doubling hit points. Both of these splits, they make sense. I would say the primary reason to pick one over the other is what your party needs. If your party doesn't have a lot of full spellcasters, doesn't have any spellcaster inside, and also you are the only, or you just happen to be a very powerful frontliner, I think you should remain just like a 3rd level of Barbarian and just hammering down that Druid route to get those wild shape improvements which will enable you to swim and fly. You'll get Sentinel Tough Feet over time. You will not get them as soon as with this split. But you will still get them eventually, and a higher challenge rating beasts, better spell slots, Primal Strike, don't forget about it. Primal Strike is actually also very important because all of your attacks are going to be magical. Therefore, no resistances are going to apply to your damage output. And yeah, I mean, that's about it. These 2 kinds of splits make sense in my mind. Again, what your party needs more. If they need a frontline bruiser that deals a little bit more damage while still being a bag of hit points that seemingly cannot ever die, do this. If you need more versatile utilitarian character that's more adaptable to various kinds of scenarios and situations, just go Druid. after picking the first 3 levels in Barbarian. Now let's quickly go over some of the... first and foremost, this is what you get at level 19. These are your abilities, these are your skills, your saving throws, your hit dice, your spell slots. Look at all of these spell slots. You actually have quite a bit of spell slots. You will be using a shield just to get tiny bit of more armor class while you are not in your beast form. And yeah, with all of that said, let's consider a situation. You are up against a nasty big bad end guy. It doesn't necessarily have to be evil. It's just an end guy. It's a guy that you fight at the end of a chapter or a campaign. And that guy deals a crap ton of damage. Now, level 5 base stats. Brown bear, you can turn into a brown bear 2 times per short rest. In other words, you can turn into a brown bear 2 times during a fight. It's got an AC of 13, 34 hit points, 3 level 1 spell slots, and finally, if the big bad end guy knocks you out of your bear form 2 times, which is actually quite a feat of proficiency, your Kalashtar form still has 44 hit points and an armor class of 14. Now, effective hit points when raging. In bear form, you basically double this. You have 136. Spell slot healing, 3 level 1 spell slots times 1d8, basically times 2 is roughly 27. Why times 2? Every time you heal yourself, for example, 4 hit points, the big bad end guy has to deal 8 to subtract those 4 healing points because you are resistant. You only take half damage. So, yeah, this is basically 27 additional hit points. Not just 13, 14, 27. Kalashtar form also basically doubling for 88 hit points. Now, it's total about 250 hit points on your own, without any of your party members healing you, without any additional external help. You have on your own, without magic items, just solo, without help from any party member, over 250 effective hit points. This is due to odd number damage resistance calculations. For example, if you get hit with 3 damage, and when you go to half that, it's 1 damage. When you get hit by 5 damage, when you go to half that, it's 2 damage. So yeah, it's always running down. That's the rules, and you basically working on those odd number calculations. You kind of squeeze even more effective hit points than just pure doubling. Now level 15. Let's talk about level 15. At level 15, you have access to air elemental, among other things. It's one of those elementals that I actually prefer. I think it's probably the best one, even though it does have the least amount of hit points. Now, when you consider it has just 90 hit points, but when you consider all the healing and a decent amount of hit points you get in Kalashtar form, and then you double all of that due to the fact that you're raging, your effective hit points go well over 850. You're basically operating around 900 effective hit points due to these odd number damage resistances. This is level 15. This is just pure insanity. I only played a similar character like this, like at level 5, so I'm familiar with this thing right here. But I would love to experience this. And if you can play a fairly high level character and you're playing in an Eberron setting, and you can pick the Kalashtar race, I would strongly recommend you take this build and you roll with it. So yeah, 900 hit point. I didn't even calculate the level 19, what I consider the capstone of this build, But I mean, if at level 15 you get almost 900, you are well over 1000 hit points, effective hit points in those like at higher levels. So yeah, this is just insane, and this is very powerful. With that said, this is about it for this video. This video is already too long, and I'm not going to talk anymore. Again, if you like this video, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, all of that usual YouTube drill. I'm soon going to release a channel update video as well, probably later today or tomorrow. I actually created a Patreon page where you can pledge a monthly amount of dollars, bucks, whatever. And a bunch of you commented asking for these files, these PDF and Word files that I use in the videos. You can now get them, you can download them. Well, I'm going to actually send them to you. If you go and pledge onto my Patreon page, I ultimately decided to make them not free. You basically get them for free in these videos. So yeah, if you want to get the physical, well, digital copies, you are going to have to pay. I'm sorry. I think it's fair. I already have like 15, 16, like 17, somewhere around that of these files. And if you pledge a monthly, if you pledge like a monthly tier, you will get all of those files and more. Obviously, I will be releasing more videos, so you will be getting those other files. I'm also in the process of creating a website where I'll be selling these files individually. It's not done yet. I'm having some troubles with the server. I'm probably going to have to buy a dedicated server because my shared hosting kind of sucks. So yeah, when I fix that, I'm going to put that out there, and yeah, that's about it. Expect the channel update soon. There's Patreon page already up. I'm going to have the link towards it down below if you want to download these particular files and any other files from my other build videos. Go there, pledge the monthly thingy, whatever. And yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe. Once again, MinMax Munchking out, and goodbye until next time.